Okay, so go figure. I barely get phone calls, and it just happened to be when I was making this tutorial, and nobody responded. Okay, so anyways, going back down, what I was saying is pretty much you want to make sure, just rule of thumb is that when you put hats on, you want to make sure you cover just right above the ear, okay, or somewhat too. Now, considering this is one of those hats that kind of covers everything, you can bring it down even more because it would be covering the ear technically. And when I hit Control 1 and then Z, we'll see what that means. So just about there. You can actually edit in this mode if you feel like it's preferred. So just turning a little bit, you can pick it up, drop it down, um, and maybe scale Z a little bit more. I know it's kind of big, but you can always adjust it to your liking. Okay, so that's pretty simple. That's pretty much it. I'm happy with that. Just like I said, I'm gonna keep it simple. I hope I'm keeping it simple. All right. So one thing also, you know what? Not yet. Okay, so we'll get that in there. Now that we've got the head in there, let's go ahead and delete the head. Actually, for now, let's just hide it in case we have to make further edits. Okay. So I hid the head by clicking the eyeball over here. Now I am going to inject the actual helmet. And this is because we're going to kind of use it as a reference. Now, I know this seems slow and long the way I'm doing it, but once you get the hang of this and you do the first one, the second one, the third one, you can do a helmet in like 5 minutes. Easy, just like that. Any type. It's just fit it over, hit 1, hit 2, hit 3, hit 4, export, good to go. That's it. Seriously, that easy. I've done like 30 helmets in like 20 minutes at times. The long part is just kind of if you have to tweak certain things to fit the face, the nose, or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and import the Neverwinter Nights 2 model. We don't need to find an armature, or it's not a head model. It doesn't matter because we already have an armature in there. We're just going to want to remove doubles, okay? And we're going to go into the HHMCL cloth helmet 01, which, as everybody knows, is that like a wizard looking helmet. And this is that special file that I told you about that it's injected. We leave that in there. That's a smart file. It has materials in it that kind of tell you if the hair is hidden, if there's partial hair. What it does is it's able to see if your character has hair on it, how much hair it has, and whether or not it should add that little ponytail in the back of the head to say that your hair's there, it's just tied down, or if it should just negate that ponytail, or if it should just make your head bald in general. So it's like a smart file. We don't touch it, but I will disable its viewing right now. So we're going to click the eyeball, turn it off. Okay, Control 1 to go back into this view. I'm going to go ahead and hide our turban because I want you to see what we imported. This is the helmet we imported. Now, it's ugly because it has those L1 and L2 files. Now, the reason why those were made were because older games and engines, you would zoom out and then it would activate certain polys within the actual file, so to save on the engine itself. So you zoom in, all of a sudden this one pops in and these two pop out, and so you get like a more detailed view. It's just to help save rendering space. So we don't really need them. Most models don't these days, so we delete them. Delete that one. We'll keep just the regular helm, that one right there. Okay. Now, the reason why we imported that is because we're going to use it over our own. When I say that, though, is I'm going to use it to kind of explain how weighting goes with helmets. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and click on the helmet itself, and we're going to go through these few things that are important for helmets. First is the little wrench here, which is pretty much your modifiers. Modifiers are little modifiers you add to objects itself, meshes, to just various reasons, for armatures, for deforming, for mirroring, for creating booleans, whatever you like. So in this case, as we can see, it already has an armature fixed to it. It's called, it already has a modifier fixed to it, and it's called an armature modifier. And it's saying, pretty much, this is telling the engine that this hat is using a skeleton called PHHM Scale, which is this skeleton model, which is the Neverwinter Nights 2. It's saying that whatever we weight to it is corresponding to the skeleton here. That may not be totally clear in the way I'm explaining it, but it's pretty much saying that whatever we do to this skeleton controls how it moves. Okay? When you export, this is very important, because if you export without this option in your own helmet, it will crash the game. And you'll have to restart because it cannot find that skeleton, so it just error. Okay, so that being said, we're going to go through this because we're going to mimic this in our own hat. Then we're going to jump over to the mesh itself. Now the mesh must always have the same name as the actual object. PHHMCL Helm 01, same here. Now if we were to go into object mode, into weight paint, okay, the shortcut for that, by the way, is Control Tab, weight paint, object mode, Control Tab. Okay, now we'll see here that it's all red and it's all weighted to this bone called B45. Now, in my earlier days, I used to weight it to just call it head, and that was inaccurate because you can weight it to a bone here called the head model. See that bone? This bone is called the head. So whenever that bone moved, this was all weighted to it. So whenever the head moved back and forth, it would move with it. The hat moves with it, so left and right. That was incorrect, however, because sometimes some hairs didn't read it correctly, so you'd get hair popping through it. Because this little smart file here needs to read the B45 weight, not the head weight. It doesn't work with the head weight. It reads the B45 weight. Now, that's just from my understanding. I didn't do extensive knowledge. I didn't go to a university to figure this out. That's just, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's how I understand it, and that's how it's been working for me. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control 1 to go back into this view. I'm going to hit Control, I'm just going to click it because it's still on weight mode. Okay, so that being said, what I'm trying to show you here is that this is actually weighted to the B45 model. Now, how weights work, I'm going to hit 3 to go to side view, is the more red, the more they are tied to that bone. Now, see how it's all selected? They're all everything in this helmet is tied to that bone. Now, the more that it's tied, the more likely that bone is able to move that object, that part of the mesh. If I wanted the arm, or for some reason the neck to be able to move this, which makes no sense right now, the neck to be able to move part of the hat, I'm going to create a new group here and call it neck. Now, the neck is an actual bone within the server, within the game. And I'm going to go ahead and go into this object here. Oops. Okay, I'm going to go back into my object. And see how it's blue? It's because it's weighted to, nothing's weighted to the neck. I have to literally I have to draw onto the model to weight it. Okay? So now, when the neck moves, the more red this has, the more neck has the power over that part of the mesh. So the more influence neck has on this brim of the hat. So whenever the neck moves left and right, that part of the hat's going to move with it. Will it look good? No, it'll actually not make sense at all, but I need you to know how weights work. Is you weight whatever part of whatever mesh. Now, this applies to hats, this applies to hairs, this applies to armor. If you want certain parts of the armor to move with certain parts, you weight that to that bone. Arm 1, Arm 2. See how we have these bone names here? Arm 1, Arm 2, Arm 3, so forth. Okay, now that was just to show you. We're obviously not going to weight this to the neck, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We don't need that. Just all of it. Most helmets will only be weighted to B45. Hairs, B45. But hairs are a little more intricate because if you want that little swinging effect in the hair, I'll show you how to do that when I do hairs, and that'll weight it to like a B46, B47. And basically that makes no sense right now, and I shouldn't be telling you that because it just confuses you. Forget that. B45 helmets, B45 is the bone you want to work with. B45 is the way to go. Okay? So now that we've got that done, I'm doing this because we're going to emulate this entire helmet with our own. We're going to go into the material. This, not so much important because we can create a new one. And so I'm just going to explain it though. This is pretty much saying what the material has in it. Usually they all come the same way. They have transparency clicked. They all have the same stuff going for them. But in order to have textures, you have to have a material. Now, if we look at our hat, close this out, and we look at the one we have here, okay? And we go into material, we have no textures assigned to our material. This is where we assign our diffuse map and our normal map and our tint map. I don't do that in Blender. Some people do. I don't, because sometimes it doesn't read it correctly and you got to click just random things, and it's not worth it when you have an MDB cloner tool which allows you to do it for you. So we're going to do that at the very end using the cloner tool, which is which you should have. If you don't, we can maybe provide a link for it to get it down there somewhere you can get it. You can also get it in the Neverwinter Nights 2 vaults, or the Neverwinter vault, whatever it is now, I forget. Okay, so going back to the hat, turn that off. We're gonna finish discussing this one. Textures, see it how it has this material, okay? And these textures, helm, the diffuse map, the normal map, and the tint map are assigned to the textures of it, or to the material that it's using. Not important in this case, we don't need it. Now that we've done that, let's turn it off and let's emulate the same for our sphere, okay? Now, we are going to go into the weighting, and we're going to hit Control Tab, or go in, if you're in object mode, go to Object Weight Paint, okay? And we're going to hit Tab, select all of them, okay? All of them. If you select, say, just those ones, or whatever, then that whenever we weight, that's all it's going to weight to, and I'll show you what I mean right now. So I'm going to click Create a New Group. I'm going to call it B45. Remember, B45, okay? And if I click those and I put assign those vertices, assign this part of the mesh to B45, and then I click OK, assign, click A to select off of it, and I hit, I hit Tab to go back into, or I just go back into Weight Paint. Do you see how B45 now controls this part of the head? So that's not correct. We want all of it. We want B45 to be able to control all of it. So I'm going to go ahead and, you don't have to undo. We can just correct it from here. We can either go in there and you can literally paint, but that's boring. I mean, yeah, but that's boring. Okay? I mean, it's not boring. It's pretty fun. But it's just time consuming, and you know, we don't want to waste time. So we're going to go ahead and go out of it and click select all, A. Okay, we're going to assign all of it to B45. So now when we hit A and select off of it, and we hit Tab, bam, all of it, just like the hat we were looking at before, where all the red was assigned to B45, all the hat being red is assigned to B45, okay? Perfect. Most things come with the calls file. We don't need that. Get rid of that. Bam. You ever see that in any file? Don't need it. PG doesn't matter. Doesn't need it. It has its own calls within it. Okay, there we go, right there. And it's actually using calls 56. That's what the helm uses. Don't worry what that means. Not important. Okay. God, I hope this is coming out correct. As far as the tutorial, I know some people are like, what the hell is he on? Okay, so that being said, we've already got our weighting, which is pretty much the most important part of most models that we introduce. Okay, the rest is kind of like, it's easy to fix, easy to come along. So let's go ahead and go out of there and go into object mode again. All right. And all we need to do now, because I'm going to override the first helm model in the overrides folder, I'm just going to copy this name. I'm going to hit, double click it, hit Control C to copy. I'm going to delete it, get rid of it, blah, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control V. Now, if I hadn't done that, what's going to happen is you create an instance of the name. So I'm going to undo that, undo again, undo. And instead of copying it, and if I were to rename mine the same thing, what happens is I get this little boop, and I hit enter. I get this 001 dot. It's an 001 version. If I were to name something else, I get 002. You don't want that, because the engine, the Neverwinter Nights 2 engine doesn't read .001. It only knows helm 01. So you have to delete it in order for you to properly clone it. Oops, and actually, that's kind of backwards, simply because I already had deleted it beforehand. So you want to make sure that you delete it before you clone it, that only one thing has helm 001, okay? So you're going to paste that. And remember, this mesh right here, we're gonna go here, 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 and here. Those are the 4 things you're gonna check before export. Okay? So now that we've got that out of the way, we're gonna go bam, modifier, add an armature. Remember how I said it's got a tie. This bone, B45, is got a tie to something. We're gonna tie that B45, that armature, that weight, to the HHM skeleton. If you hit object, it's gonna find the only skeletons within here, and there obviously is PHHM skeleton. We're gonna hit Control C to copy it, or highlight it all, Control C, and just copy it in here. Don't apply, just leave it as is. Okay? Now we're gonna go into the mesh, and this must always have the same name, as I said. So hit Control C, bam, copy it there. This is already done. It's weighted, it's got its map, its UV coordinates already set. We did that early on when we went to UVs. See? All, there we go. Okay, go back into default. So that's done. Usually you never touch that. Go here, and then we're gonna change the name of the object. The object must also match the name of the file, or the object name must match the material. So the name must go here and here. This must have an armature. Name must go here and here. Once again, assign the armature, connect it to the armature, copy the name to the mesh, copy the name to the material. Don't worry about this. We'll fix that in another program. Once again, okay, apply an armature. This one, here and here. Copy the name to the mesh data block defining geometric surfaces. Copy the name to the material, type of active data, and display and edit material. Okay? After you do that, guess what? You're pretty much done, but we didn't delete this head. Now, if you don't delete the head, what's going to happen is it's going to export with it, and it's already weighted and everything, so you're going to have a head on top of a head. Make sure to delete that head, okay? Delete. Now, this injected file, we're leaving it in there. You don't have to rename it because it doesn't matter by the name. It just matters that the data is there. This is the data telling that the engine that this hat may or may not have to delete the hair. Now, we'll make a purposed error in a little bit to show you what it does. But for the most part, it's done, okay? Now, luckily, when we start the game, there's a model that already in the character creation that utilizes hat 01, the hat that we're going to use, so we don't have to create a module to go in to test it. We can see it from the character creation menu, which is awesome, which means we can also edit it real time. And I'll show you what that means afterward, okay? So now that that's done, I'm going to go back onto the hair. I can turn everything back on, okay? I'm going to copy this, Control-C, and we are going to export this bad boy, all right? So File, Export, Neverwinter Nights 2. I'm going to put it in my Turbine folder. I'm not going to overwrite this one, like I said. I pull these out, but I tend to use these over and over. So I'm going to make sure it's not overwriting the original Helm 01 because I may have to pull that out again for any other reason. So I'm going to go actually into the Turbine folder. And you want to make sure for helmets you have these ones selected. Smooth TS seams and Alpha Test. That's all. Okay? And for anything other than a head, those are the only two you really need to check. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click here and hit Control V because I had copied the name earlier. So it's going to save it as PHHMCL_Helm01, export to NWN2 MDB, save, and bam, it's done. We go back into our turbine and we have it here. Now, as I said, we didn't assign textures to the material. It's because I have the MDB cloner here. You can download it. I keep it in a little folder here. And I'm going to show you these two files, okay? So, MDB cloner, that allows us to open up an MDB, reclone it using a different name, and apply different textures to it. This is good in case I want to make 4 variations of this helmet. I don't know why. And I can clone it as Helm 01, 02, 03, 04, 05. Usually this is good if you want to clone an already in-game object, make your own edits, and reclone it as a different object name. You can't just rename an MDB. It won't work that way. I can't just name it here because the data inside it needs to correspond with the data on the outside. So if I were to change the name, even though I change it to, I don't know, Helm 01 BBBCCDD, whatever. When I open up the file, it's going to read just Helm 01. And if that data doesn't match the data on the inside, it errors. Okay, so it won't read it. It won't matter. So just that's why you have to use the MDB cloner. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up now. All right, and I'm gonna go click. You're gonna find the file, load MDB. It's on my desktop, I believe, and then I have working files, turbine, and it's right there. Now it has unknown, nothing was attached to it. So we're gonna find those 2 files that we created in Photoshop for it. One of them being, you have to click down here, texture files as target files. You have to click DDS files, BG turbine 2_D for the diffuse map. We don't have a tint map yet. We're not going to worry about making a tint map. Tint maps are its own tutorial later on. A glow map is if you want to create little glowing parts of the mesh to shine in the dark. Some materials have it. You may have seen it in games. Some arcane writing, perhaps a jewel you want to shine even in the darkness, just to have a glow. That's a map you create otherwise. But we're going to hit here for normal map. We're going to find DDS, and we're going to click that too right there. and we're going to save the clone, it's going to say MDB file exists already. Do you want to overwrite it? Yes, we do. Okay, and I'm going to drop that down. Now, I also keep this with me too. It's called the Neverwinter Nights 2 model viewer. You can get this off the Neverwinter Vault as well. This allows you to view any MDB file without having to actually open up the game in a live view. Now, it doesn't read the normal map. It only reads the diffuse map, really, and so you really can't see the depth of light on it, though it gives a kind of interesting result. So I'm going to open up the desktop and go to Working Files, Turbine. I'm going to click this here, and this is pretty much what it looks like. This is our helmet. It's going to spin around. Let me just, it's usually not that. Rotation speed, speed it up. Anyways, so we get the point, all right? So now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my override folder. I go ahead and, it's empty right now. The override folder is where I test all my models, where you want to test your models. You must always create a folder within the override folder. You can't just drop files into the parent drive because it won't read them. So I'm going to call this, for the sake of this tutorial, test helmet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open that folder up. I'm going to copy, I'm going to select my BG Turbine 2 _ D, hold down Control to semi-select my BG Turbine 2 _ N. Keep holding down Control and select my MDB to correspond with it. I'm going to right-click and drag and drop over to my test helmet override folder. I'm going to copy here. The reason I don't move them is because for some reason, if I overwrite these, I have the backup. Now, when you confirm that everything you made with it, you can delete these all you want, because as a builder, you will build up lots of hard drive clutter quick. So being careful on how and where you put things, and not confusing yourself with where this is at and that's at. It will drive you crazy trying to find a file that you could have swore you put here, but it's actually there because you didn't name things right, or you weren't careful in cleaning up your clutter. So we'll just leave it like that. So now that these are in the override file, as soon as we fire up the game, this is automatically going to overwrite that wizard helmet with the little feather sticking out. So that's the only way we can test it. So I have my, let me see where I think where I put it. Temporary video files creation. Okay. I think I have my Neverwinter Nights 2 client in here. Map editor. I'm just gonna put the launcher back out here because I had moved all my desktop files. See, I am messy. All my desktop files are out here. So I had to clean it up for the sake of making you think that I'm actually not cluttered myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up the game. Okay, click yes. We're nearly done. Let this fire up. Okay. Now my game starts off weird. I don't play in full screen mode because I'm always constantly going back and forth. So I play in windowed mode. Just pull it up like that. That's just me. And I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'm just gonna start a new game, new module. I'm just gonna choose. I have these test ones that I made. But I'm just going to choose uninvited guests because chances are you'll have that on yours too to test stuff. Okay, so I'm going to click create character, and we're going to click human, and we're going to click next, and then that doesn't matter. Next, what matters is the class, because that's what we're going to test the helmet, and I believe it's the wizard. It's a wizard that has the helmet. One of these has a helmet on it. There we go. Bam. That's the Arcane Scholar Candlekeep. Okay, so there we go. See how it automatically gave it that ponytail? Because the hat was down just enough for it to realize, hey, let's go ahead and do that with it. Now, if you don't want that, there's a different file you inject. Okay, and we'll go back to that. There's a reason why I pulled out this file here, the other type of helmet, the full plate. Because if you inject that data file from that one into it, it automatically overrides any chance for this ponytail to come out, okay? So that's the one you most likely want to use. The only time you use the CL helmet is only if you want this ponytail to be there, which does not look good at all, because who the hell? Anyways, so that's pretty much it. Now you can make your edits here. Here's the beauty of it all, okay? I know this is a little more advanced. I'm sorry, I'm giving you more stuff than I said I would. So now that we've got it in game, this is done. We don't need this anymore. We don't even have to save it. You can if you'd like. I didn't because I don't want to save it because I'm going to give you the regular blend file for it so you can do it yourself and follow along and repeat the steps that I made. So I'm just going to drop it down for now. What I am going to do is I'm going to open up Blender on another because Blender open you can open up many instances of Blender. Okay, I'm going to go to File Import. I'm going to import this MDB and edit it live and watch the changes go live in game so I can edit, tweak. Okay, so I'm going to import a Neverwinter Nights 2. I'm going to find an armature. Don't worry, it's not a head model anymore because it's now registered as an actual just a game model. So just find an armature, remove the doubles. I'm going to go into my let's see, documents, Neverwinter Nights 2 override, test helmet, and open up that MDB. Bam, it's right there. See? And what I'm going to do now is I can go ahead and close this out. And I'm actually going to inject the correct file, but I don't know if it'll read it, so I don't want to risk that right now and get that wrong live. We can do that afterwards, okay? So let's say I'm looking at this file, I'm like, oh god, like, let's see. I want this dude, like, it should come down a little lower maybe? Well, I don't know, let's see. Maybe tilt it, because it looks like it's tilting forward. So let's go ahead and tilt it, okay? So let's go ahead and bring this up. Let's go ahead and hit 3. Let's go ahead and hit rotate. Maybe scale it up just a little bit. Maybe scale on the Z-axis. Pick it up, and then let's go ahead and save that out. That's all you have to, you don't have to even do anything. You can leave it like that and go to File, Export, Neverwinter Nights 2. Remember, we always click Alpha Test and Smooth TS Seams. Okay, go back into that test helmet on your override documents, Neverwinter Nights 2, override, test helmet, and override. And in order to see it, we have to click off of it and click back on it. And if you notice, it's bigger. Okay. So there we go. Maybe bring it down a little more. Let's try that. Okay, one more edit. It's going to go ahead and bring it down. Remember, a little goes a long way. If I hit Control Z, you can see how much it went. A little goes a long way. Okay. Go ahead and export that again. Neverwinter Nights 2. This should already be saved. So now we're just overwriting. Go to last area, export, click off of it, click on it, and we brought it down some. Okay. Now, if we want to get rid of that hair, I'm going to try something now live to see if it does it live. If not, we may have to close and reopen the program. So the reason why it's doing that is because the CL thing here is used for models that you want that little hair extension to be an option. That hair extension doesn't necessarily become an option with using the full plate version of the injection file. So I'm going to delete that injection file. Okay. And then we're going to save it, and I'm going to show you exactly what that does. So export Neverwinter Nights 2, test helmet, okay, and here we go. And I don't know if it's going to show live. Let's see. I think it, yeah, see how it did that? So now it's actually reading the original hair. And that's good, but what happens is if you have one of these, it's using the vanilla armors, the hairstyles. So that's good. Let's go ahead and go back. I'm going to actually connect to the Baldur's Gate server where you have the new hairstyles in. Okay. And okay. Where is it at? History, Baldur's Gate, connect. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to create a character here because this allows us to utilize the new hairstyles from this server. All right, so we're going to go click next. Next, I'm going to go into one of these longer hairs that kind of stretch out a little bit. Maybe one that's really wild. Yeah, let's try that one. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we go next, and we go to Arcane Scholar Candlekeep. See what happens there? I mean, that is like, what? Okay, so I mean, some people might like that. I don't know, but the reason that being is because there's no injection file in that helmet telling it, hey, operate this way if the hair looks like this. Operate this way if the hair looks like that. So there are ways to get rid of that, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. This is the tricky part of helmets, is that Neverwinter Nights wasn't really, they didn't, when they made the game, they didn't think that, 15 years later, people would be pulling stuff out of, wherever they got to and make stuff right. No one really planned for this. They didn't really care to create a file for that. So what I'm going to do live is something experimental and see if it works. And this is all about learning. So we're going to import Neverwinter Nights 2 from that turbine folder. We're going to go back to the PF Helm 01, the other file that we pulled out. This is the full plate helmet. See how it has its own injection file here? And it also came with its own LO2s, which we delete. Okay? Delete. All right. And then the Helm 01, we don't need it. See, that's it, though, in case you needed to see. We can delete the extra coals file that it gave us, too. Delete hierarchy. Okay? And I hope I'm making sense right now. So we are going to, where's that injection file? That's that. Here it is, PF Helmet 01. See, that's the helmet, the full plate helmet 01, the first model of the full plate helmets. We can delete that because all we want really is this injection file. It's a different set of data. As you notice, it's even placed separately somewhere else. See how then the cloth one was like over here. And we're going to export with it. You don't have to rename it, okay? We're going to export with that injection file, that data, okay? And that reads it differently because that doesn't add the ponytail, but I believe it also negates hairs from falling out of place. In some cases, it might actually delete the hair in the back, so let's find out. So export, Neverwinter Nights 2. These are already set, working files. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope. Test helmet under our documents, Neverwinter Nights 2. Override, test helmet, bam. Okay, let's test it live. Click off of it, on it. Oh, nope, does the same thing. Okay, so you just got to be careful. I'm sorry, but if you pick that helmet and you want to look like Cicero, that's all you. Yeah. Okay, so all in all, just don't pick those hairs. Essentially, pretty much is you get the gist. Is something like this. If you want to be able to have your own hair, and that helmet, it's perfect for something like that because it makes more sense. Maybe not on that one, but you won't know until you try it. But as long as you got the main gist of adding helmets. Now, when you use a full plate, when you use a helmet that's going to cover the face and eyes, you essentially want that injection file because that's going to keep the hair from rising. Now, I think it's doing this because of some weird, I think it's just not, I may have to restart. I don't want to do that right now because I'm trying to end this tutorial. I don't want to keep dragging on. But pretty much is, yeah, there's a way to fix that. So if you're having some real deep issues with that, just go ahead and PM me and we can walk through it together. As long as you got of how to add your own helmets in game. Hairs are similar, very much similar. It's just the only thing that changes with hairs is weighting it correctly. Like instead of weighting it all to B45, you gotta weight it 3 to a B46, which is like right here, and a B47 weight, which is like right here. So it kind of weighs properly. And you don't get like those crusty type hairs where, you know, it looks like you haven't showered in forever and it just crusted up. Actually, that would be opposite because it gets really oily. You know, we don't need to get into that type of physics. So, that being said, there is your helmet. There is your helmet in game, your turban. And I hope I was able to teach you a thing or two. We can do the scarf next, and I'll probably jump on that when I can. Maybe later on today if I'm feeling up for it. And that way I can teach you how to actually move things around and mold them around the face, which is pretty simple. It's not hard at all. Most of these things are easy to learn once you do it once or twice. You kind of get the rhythm going and you're good to go. Okay? So that being said, thank you everybody for being part of this tutorial, for being patient and listening. And I know I speak pretty fast. I can't help it. I am my mom's son, so that's just how we are. Go ahead and turn down the... or chop and screw the audio track if you need something deeper and slower. Other than that, have a great day, media team. Thanks.